Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Let's create the craziest campaign combo in your D&D game.
Jump down the description below. We can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So, all right. So we're gonna go with like a crazy campaign combo here. We're gonna mix some things. We're actually gonna take some things from a game that we find interesting and really cool, and we're just gonna pull some things from mythology. And we've even done another video called about the wizened or wizened, that is similar to this but
Right.
much different.
Absolutely. This takes it in a completely different direction. If we look at mythology, and if we look at folklore, the whole aspect of goats kind of goes in a bunch of different ways. I mean, everyone's heard of the three Billy Goats Gruff,
but that's the only good story, really. After that, it kind of goes downhill, right? Like, there's a lot of association, with sacrifices. It's always the goats that are getting sacrificed a lot of times with, satanic cults. Lucifer himself is usually depicted with goat features, whether it's, cloven hoof feet,
the curly horns, the beard, and I mean even the beard by itself has transcended in many different ways into that whole
They don't call it a goatee for nothing.
Exactly.
You have Baphomet from as a demonic figure as well, and he's been taken on in the D&D universe and cosmology. He's actually one of my favorite demon lords, to be honest with you. I've always dug him. But he's mainly known for minotaurs, but the goats are also in his purview as well, I believe.
And let's not forget about the crazy goat eyes.
Yes,
those are certainly a thing.
And we are actually native to New Jersey. We have the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is usually depicted with, again, those goat features. He's like a combination of Lucifer and a bat, or something along those lines.
Right.
So so there's a lot of room for us to work there. So we're going to build a campaign based off of almost like a goat cult.
All right. Well, it could be a goat cult, or it could be this, order of mages who has realized the potential to bend, twist, mutate, arm these goats with its powers to do its bidding.
Right. Before we even get into our whole shepherd cabal, if you will, right? We want to thank our sponsors for this video. So Gruff is a tactical combat card game where players duel to the death with custom teams of mutated monster goats.
So check out the Stuff of Nightmares now on Kickstarter until April 19th. Or you can head over to studiowoe.com to check out the whole Gruff line. Links are in the description.
Get do this stuff with our sponsors. Go show them some love. So with that, we've kind of based this campaign idea off of this card game because it's frankly just a lot of fun. The concept is fun.
It is. We had a chance to actually sit down with the creator at PAX Unplugged and actually play the game. It was a lot of fun, and you've actually had him on the channel as well.
Yes, yeah. So Brent and his team, they've developed this game, and there's different factions in it, right? So we're going to build our world loosely off of that, a whole campaign setting that you could play, countless adventures in. It's just a fun exercise. And I know you guys sometimes are like, how do I play this or how do I play that? And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to base it off of this game instead.
All right, so there's a variety of different factions, and we're going to take each of those factions and kind of commingle this world with some of the concepts of Dark Sun, where you've got all these different sorcerer kings that they control their territory, and each of them are their own unique creature. Well, we're going to do the same thing with this world.
Shepherd kings, though.
But they're shepherd kings.
So, all right. So the premise, the idea, how this world gets it started, maybe thousands of years ago, right? You've got the shepherds. And, the shepherds are these mages, these alchemists, these tinkers The maybe they make pacts with beings from otherworldly dimensions. Maybe they brook in the things of dreams and nightmares. And they all come together because they worship this one figure, this deity, or it could be a demon lord or a devil. But the demon, the devil, its shtick is goats. It's all about goats, right? For this guy, maybe he is a humanoid goat, you know, but that's not really the important part, because also, like, each one of these shepherds, they pay homage and worship him in his own way. So they've kind of taken on the goat as their totem animal, but they've taken it to an extreme, and it may not be quite in such a loving way. They've turned goats into living weapons. And the cabal came together. Maybe they came together initially to put down some other kind of threat, which has been lost to the annals of time at this point. But they do it. They're successful, and in doing so, they set up their own little fiefdoms, their own kingdoms. They grow, but they get to a certain point where it's like, okay, we have to prove who is actually the truest and the most devout worshiper to this deity, to this godlike figure. And they eventually go to war with each other. But the different factions, the different wizards that form up this cabal, we've got the necromancers, we got Vikings, we got the otherworldly, we got mechanical, we've got those that brook in fiends and disease. And then finally, there is dreams and nightmares. And they all use these things as their weapons, but in a specific way. They use it to build these armies of mutant goats.
So I would envision, going back to Dark Sun, where the land is a blasted landscape. Here you wouldn't necessarily have to have all of that. Because there's no attachment to the sand and magic gone awry. So you could have each of these kingdoms, each of the areas that are like literally walled off. Maybe not with actual walls, but with the visages and the things that mark their territory. So perhaps your mechanical, there is a legitimate steel wall that springs up, or maybe it's not a full fledged steel wall, but maybe it's iron runged, and you've got this metal cage around the entire thing. Perhaps the dreams and nightmares literally has things, heads stuck on pikes surrounding the whole thing. Your necromancers could have the whole area, ringed in bone. You could do all of these things to visually say, all right, you are now crossing the borders into this guy's land, or gals, depending upon how you want to create your shepherd, king, or queen. And in doing so, like, all right, I know that I'm in this territory, and these are the typical guidelines that I need to deal with. These are the things that I know I have to do and pay homage to, for fear of reprisal from
The shepherds.
the shepherds, the lords of this domain.
And it's also important too to remember that they're kind of insane. I mean, they built their armies on goats. Now, I would take it a step further and say that they've actually taken goats and kind of morphed them into humanoid creatures and made them their foot soldiers. And then, like, the difference is how they did it. Like, the necromancers may have grafted different goat parts onto corpses, where your mechanical ones, they kind of built them into bodies,
Right.
and the disease and fiends, they're broken with the underworld in order to make this happen. While your otherworldly, which would be like your eldritch horror, your Cthulhu type creatures, they're infusing them with this eldritch horror energy to build them out, and they would all be twisted and distorted. And of course, then we have those that are made from the stuff of dreams and nightmares.
Which that could be in any which way, shape, or form. But I think there could be a lot of fun, building that out and playing in this kind of world.
Now, one of the concepts, one of the ideas we were like kicking around is the common folks, the commoners. They're kind of like downtrodden. This is kind of a depressing world to live in. I would almost give it the feel of somewhere between Dark Sun, like you said, and Ravenloft.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, that kind of feel where everyone's just beaten, right? And they don't know what to do, and like they're always afraid, and they're just trying to toe the line, and they just really want to exist. The streets where they live may or may not be patrolled by these terrifying beast men, that are barely above animal intelligence, and they're devout and loyal to the shepherds. And then there's probably like lesser shepherds, like they probably have like a whole hierarchy. And I also see like the shepherd's crook as being like a symbol of power throughout it. So it's also a symbol to be feared by the common folk.
Right. So like you could have like resistance organizations where it's like the broken one,
Yes.
but like people are afraid to display that symbol or carve it anywhere for fear of reprisal.
Or being caught with it. Yes, absolutely. And that brings us to like one of the other ideas we had. Like somewheres in the mythology, Billy Goat's Gruff kind of happened, right?
Right.
Somewhere there was a troll that stood up to the Billy Goats, right? He failed, he lost, but he stood up to them.
Right.
So the common folk have kind of raised up as a hero trolls. It's probably not your standard D&D troll. These might be more like your Norwegian trolls, or a little bit different. Or it could be your D&D one. But the idea is that they've embraced the troll as a symbol of,
Of hope and prosperity.
yeah,
really.
hope and prosperity, as well as, resistance and rebellion.
So the trolls will wind up being the heroes of the story. And, perhaps, in this kind of world, you would create like a trollkin kind of race to be able to be a PC, or maybe the trolls are just going to be NPCs that the party gets to meet and encounter, and sometimes use to further the hero's end.
Yeah, well, I would probably do like a whole prophecy thing where they like prophesize the trolls will return and restore the land to the people. And it could be true, or it may not be. Like they could be just horrible monsters themselves, but it's all that the people have had to kind of like cling to. So I guess from here, the idea is, what kind of games would we play?
Well, there's a lot of different stuff that you'd want to work into, and I think before like we get through all of that, I would want to look at we mentioned Ravenloft and we mentioned Dark Sun. Now Ravenloft kind of has that crest of power, in that 10 to 15 world, because they don't tend to allow things to get super powerful, whereas right out of the second edition rules, your sorcerer kings kind of start at like 20th to 30th level. So like I would really want to figure out what kind of power level would you want to play this world in. Do we want to manage it so that it's something that the party could get to level 20 and be more powerful than the shepherd kings and queens and be able to overthrow and restore the world? Or do we want to have it where they are essentially they're like divine beings at this point, and they're not really easily able to be overthrown?
Oh, that is an excellent point. Are they kind of like Archmage Lich level, or are they literally demigods?
Right. So like that's something I think is important to know going in.
Yes and no, right? I would say yes in the sense that ultimately when you're going to end the game, you need to know. But when you're starting the game, it won't matter as much because it'll be a long time before
That's true.
it's relevant to your players.
So if you're gonna run with this kind of concept, figure out what kind of game that you would want to run, and plan accordingly. But what kind of games can you play with this kind of thing? All right, well, you could have the factions be on a temporary hiatus, and you could play a normal game where you're just trying to survive. Play it like it's Dark Sun, play it like it's for Ravenloft, and just skirt notice from the higher powers and play your normal game. You know, Easy peasy. You have a unique and interesting world to play in with just some weird effed up stuff.
Yeah, when you get in trouble in town and the watch shows up, things get a little weird.
You could wind up playing it when these guys are at their crest of war. They're at odds with each other, and there's constantly boundary conflicts. You could side with one or the other, or maybe you're just dealing with that in the course of your game, and you encounter one. It's like, oh well, you're clearly on our, in our area. You have to fight for our side, or suffer our ill will.
That could be a lot of fun as one of the concepts of playing, basically the War of the Shepherds, right? Now they're going at each other's throats. They're trying to prove, who is the most powerful, who is the most devout, whatever. At this point, maybe they don't even remember why they're fighting. But, you're caught up in that and you've chosen a side. So, you play that out, right? And since it's like a battle of five different armies, it could be interesting and also like determine like what kind of character you want to play would that would kind of like determine which faction you would be from. Now that would be problematic if you're building a party of adventurers and they're all kind of like all over the place, so it'd be hard to get them all to work together.
Well, I think that would be something to handle on a session zero and be like, all right, guys, pick a faction, and that's where we're going to start.
Yeah. Well, then we have the idea of the uprising against the shepherds or rallying of the trolls, right? So the idea is, you want to overthrow the shepherd that is ruling your domain, and one of the possibilities for doing so is rallying the trolls, bringing the trolls back into the world, getting them back involved, and perhaps they can be your saviors.
And this has that that kind of feel that I was talking about, where it's like you want to know eventually what these shepherd kings and queens power wise are to see how feasible something like that would be.
Right. And like you could also scale it as well in the sense that yes, yeah, I'm going to allow them to overthrow one of them, right? But then others will do something in order to try and counter. Now, they may still overthrow more of them, but it's going to be more difficult now.
Right. But I mean, anytime you make something that you want to make a great change to a campaign world, I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, especially if you plan it towards the end of the campaign. Absolutely. So the last one is the idea of that the savior of the goats, right? The whole concept from the beginning has kind of been foobarred, and if you're really young, you may not know what that even means, but that's okay.
So
But they want to reclaim the goat god for what it truly is. It's not actually this evil thing.
So I guess the concept here is these shepherd kings, have been granted power, by this divine being, but they misinterpreted its message and twisted it to beyond recognition. And this thing is like, but I was a force for good, and look at what you've done with my gifts. So, like, you could have the people rise up and try to restore this god to the proper power and the proper seat of what his message is.
Well, especially if you have a paladin or cleric or even druid in the game, like maybe early on, like the goat god begins speaking to them, and like and maybe too, like the power granted was more political than it was divine in nature. So like they had their own arcane means, or other means that they were using to get as powerful as they did, and they just did it in the name of this deity. They warped what it truly meant, or maybe there is more than one goat being in this world, more than one deity or demonic force, or it could be the influence of dark forces that actually did empower them in the name of this creature in order to pervert it.
So maybe it was, the goat god offering stuff, and Baphomet came and, kind of slipped in a subtle message undetected.
Just tweak things a little bit. Turn the dimmer from good to evil.
But I gotta put this comment out there. If you got a cleric of the goat god, I definitely would want to give their, especially in this kind of world, not in a normal campaign, but in this kind of world, channel divinity, turn or command goats.
Well, no, it actually would work though, because I would have it work on the goatkin, the beastmen. They'd be able to rebuke them. So that would be kind of cool. Like they'd be able to kind of like cower them and terrify them of the power of the true power of the goat.
The true power of the goat god.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Would you guys play something like this? Do you think this would be a fun idea? We got a place where you can comment and tell us all about it. That is down in the comments below while you're at it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Don't forget to check out the link down below for that Kickstarter, and check out the awesome game of Gruff.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.